The reading for today is The Labor of Our Days by Jennifer Willett, who has worked for the UUA. What images come to mind when I say Labor Day? Chances are you think of the holiday weekend and celebration with your loved ones, the federal holiday, unions, and the cause of working wage and benefits. Maybe the history of the struggle of working people to have a fair share of the profits from their work. Those are all great. Now I want you to think of your parents and caregivers. The parent that fed you, bathed you, nurtured you, and taught the building blocks of how to be in the world. Now think of your elders, who shops for them, goes to the doctors with them, cleans for them and cares for them when they begin to fail. Now think of those that have physical and mental challenges of differing degrees. They come in all ages. Who assists them in the daily tasks that make day-to-day life easier and sometimes possible at all? Much of this work is unpaid labor, yet the work of homemaking, child care, elder care, and differently abled care isn't part of our economic system. It doesn't count on our GDP, but our society would collapse without it. Now consider the other non-paid labor we do to mentor, to educate, to assist, to advocate, to entertain and enrich the community, the country, and the world. Think of all that we do for our neighbors, our friends, our community to make life better. This is labor. A paycheck isn't the only measure of your work. Without this labor, our world would be a lonelier and more desperate place. Honor your labor. If you work for money, this holiday is for you. If you work for love, this holiday is still for you. Our work makes the world better. Enjoy your day. Today we have two presentations on our working lives and how people have brought spiritual values to their work. I'm very, very pleased that Gordon Bernstein and Mike Timms have agreed to talk about their working lives. Please welcome them.
Well, as introduced, my name is Gordon Bernstein. I'm a little taller than Ann is. I want to talk to you about the work I do as a volunteer fireman. And although the word volunteer isn't specific in my own case, the IRS calls it paid on call. But I make $11 for every time I go to a fire or a rescue, which is pretty much volunteer. That pays for the gasoline that I use to get there and get home. I wasn't quite sure how I would describe what I do, so I thought I would just do an introduction. I brought my fire pager with me. And in my daily life, this is actually my supervisor. I'm never much more than arm's reach away from it, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. If I'm inside the house, it has a charger that it sits in. And if I'm outside of the house, wherever, you'll see me with it clipped to my pocket. Or if I'm doing something noisy like mowing the lawn, I keep it clipped right here. Always available. I always know where it is so that I can go to help somebody when they need it. I'll put it like that. Like most supervisors, it's pretty good at telling me where to go, what to do when I get there, and the time frame is always right now. And then it never helps at all once we get there. It doesn't help complete the effort. That's the rudiments of it. I suppose the spiritual part of it is you never feel more useful than when you're helping somebody who really, really needs your help right then. Whether it's a medical emergency or a car accident or at a fire. That person is having one of the worst days they've ever had in their life. And that's a pretty good time for me to jump in and help out. That's one of the things I like the most about being a fireman and the work I do as a fireman. It doesn't come without annoyance because there's a lot of folks that misuse the emergency system. So I get annoyed at that, and sometimes I lose my temper a little bit. Would you like a for instance? Oh, I saw one head shake, no. This lady, pager goes off, and unfortunately Donna left, but I mean, for most people in Michigan, you recognize November 15th as being almost a holiday in Michigan. That's opening day of deer season. And this elderly lady called in that she had a funny smell. There was a smell around her house. She didn't know if it was natural gas or propane or somebody making meth in her neighborhood. She didn't know. She just knew she was experiencing a smell. And on November 15th, because I don't go deer hunting, I know I'm the guy that's going. Nobody else is coming. Everybody else is out in the woods with the volume turned way down listening, while they're still deer hunting. They haven't gotten up from their spot to come help. And I get there, and it turns out, how long have you been experiencing this smell? She says, oh, about 3 years now. You didn't have a friend or a neighbor or a relative that you could have brought it up to them in the last 36 months? You waited until 9:30 in the morning, which is the best time to go be out in the field deer hunting, in the early a.m., and you waited until November 15th to bring it up. So I could have been more patient with her. I'll put it that way. Sometimes the reading you had, Ann, I'm hitting some of those spots. Sometimes you get a giggle. You'll get a good one. There was a carload of kids going to the prom. They were all dressed so very nicely, and they hit a water puddle, went off the road, and hit a tree. So we had 4 patients immediately. And I was handed one of the boys, my fire chief and I, and we're starting to work on the teenager. Rule 1, Deb's here, is clothes go. You can't treat the patient if you can't see the injury, so the clothes have got to go. And as I'm cutting this kid out of his tuxedo, I'm snickering. And finally my chief says, "What are you laughing about?" I said, "Oh, this kid is not getting his security deposit back." I should have saved just a little bit of his cummerbund or something, just as a souvenir, but I didn't. But no, and most of the time when we go to things, they're reasonable requests. You know, it's rare that somebody's wasting my time. I'm so practiced after 35 years of doing it that when the pager goes off, I start formulating a plan in my head. I get there, I implement the plan. When we're done, we clean up our stuff, we go home. Nothing to it. Would you like to hear a couple of runs? My pager does have a memory, and the first one is boring because every night at 6 o'clock the pager is tested. All right, so the first one's just the page.
Iota County Central Dispatch has an emergency paging system for Saturday, August 31st, 2019. Central cleared 1800 hours, WPJI 506.
Told you. Boring. This is the one we had before.
Iota County Central Dispatch has an emergency paging system
I forgot
for
about this.
Friday, August 30th, 2019. Attention all fire departments. Belding Fire Department will be hosting a fireman's water battle on August 31st. Sign up is from 2 to 3 p.m. tomorrow with the shoot starting at 3 p.m. It is a 2-man team double elimination competition. Trophies will be awarded for
We made the
first
news
through
on
fourth
that.
place. The battle will be held on Congress Street next to the Belding Fire Station. Bring as many members as you want. Central is clear at 1801 hours, WPJI 506.
Oh, wait, here's the one.
Ionia County Central Dispatch to Linesmere Fire Department. If you could respond mutual aid, full response 2776 East Portland Road between Kelsey and Sunfield for a barn fire. Central's clear at 1660.
And then it always repeats, so you'll hear the exact same thing over again. It's loud at night. It wakes up the whole family. I'll shut that up. Again, that's one of my annoyances. I have heard it a lot, is somebody dialed 911. We all jump into a set of clothes. You know, if it's in the middle of the night, we jump into a set of clothes. We drive like crazy to get to the address where the problem is. And we ask, the patient really isn't that sick. We said, you know, we're here, we'll take care of you, but how come you just didn't have somebody in your family drive you in your own car to the hospital? Oh, I didn't want to wake up the whole family. You just woke up 20-some firemen and all of their family is awake, but you didn't want to wake up one of your family members to take you to the hospital. Falls under annoyance. But I continue to do it. Like I say, I've been doing it 35 years now, and it is so worth it when somebody is having their worst possible day and the actions I do change the course of where that day is going to go. Sometimes it pays off. You know, nobody lives forever. So sometimes you can't have a positive result, but I'm still going to try every time. I didn't ask how long to talk, but I think I'm done. Oh, yeah.
When that picture tells you that address like that,
Mm-hmm.
do you remember it or do you have to write it down?
Sometimes I remember it. Now, I mean, something that was for a barn fire, I don't care what the address is. I'm going to go to the big smoke. I'm going to keep driving until I get where all the smoke is coming from. I just have to know the road. And in that instance, remember I mentioned how I know what to do and the plan is so well worked I don't think about it. In that instance, my fire chief talked to me afterwards. He says, I was just depending on you being there that myself and two guys climbed into the engine and we took off, assuming that you were right behind us and get the tanker fire truck, which I did. Myself and another person jumped in the tanker and away we went. It's just that smooth, that when the things are going, we know what needs doing and we just do it. But yeah, address, I'm going to where the smoke is.
What was the bad smell?
The bad smell was absolutely nothing. There was no aroma. She had a whole story as how it was leaking in under her doors and windows, and it was bothering her in the house. To be brutally honest, I think the smell was internal. It wasn't coming in from outdoors. It was her own aroma, or a household aroma that was bothering her. Are there any other questions? Oh, I almost called on you, Steve. You itched at the wrong time. Well, thank you. Mike, you're up. Look at him. He's got it written down.
And thank you, too, for all the volunteer work that you do. It's very important. Good morning. I'm Mike Timms. In 2017, I retired after working 15 years with the Postal Service. We are all exposed to the Postal Service early in our lives. Most every child enjoys going to the mailbox to pick up the mail or to open the front door and be surprised to discover a package. And what a special day it is when a letter or a package is for you. at least as a child. Why, in my efforts to make my little brother feel more special, he began to think that his middle name was Occupant. My working career with the Postal Service actually began when I was a student at Michigan State University. And I was employed in the East Lansing Post Office during my junior and senior year. I began a second career with the Postal Service following 30 years as a guidance counselor with Grass Lake Community Schools. From my experience as an educator, I knew that I enjoyed working with people and I enjoyed multitasking. As I was the only high school counselor, I was responsible for every guidance facet: career education, class scheduling, personal counseling, post-secondary education, financial aid, scholarships, the whole shebang. The job of being a mail carrier is multitasking on many levels. Your day begins with sorting, organizing, planning, and preparing for the delivery of your mail and the packages in a structured sequence of the route. Second half of the workday entails the actual delivery as you follow the route. Incidentally, I did find that my gaming skills of playing Tetris transferred wonderfully when it became Christmas time and I had all those Amazon packages to find a way to fit them in the back of the truck. As you repeated the delivery of the route, you noticed all sorts of patterns and choices of mail. You learned that each household's specific interests: Sports Illustrated, Farm Journal, Time, Outdoorsman, Golf Digest, Popular Mechanics, Rifleman, National Geographic, are a few examples. Union-affiliated and career-oriented magazines can indicate an individual's job or their business. The increase of cards at a certain time can mean many things: a birthday, a wedding, a new baby, or possibly an illness, or even the passing of a loved one. I learned early on not to assume that the occasion was either good or bad. The piling up of mail in one's mailbox can mean a possible vacation, and they forgot to put their mail on hold. Or maybe even an illness. Maybe a distressed move that might be either temporary or permanent. These patterns and situations help to develop a certain level of a relationship. As a daily contact, direct or indirect, in the lives of 800 plus households, a mail carrier is an informal monitor of the lives of their customers. I have some personal examples of certain things that happened to me during my career, including picking up mail in a box which had a flag up. I noticed that one of the envelopes was unsealed. To be sure that the contents didn't fall out, I turned it over and began to get ready to seal it up. It became obvious that there was money inside. Lots of money. $2,000 worth of cash. I sealed the envelope and I wrote a note on it. I don't think you intended to mail this envelope, and put it back in the mailbox in the middle of their mail for the day. Needless to say, they were grateful. Another time, a woman on my route who often came to the truck to get the family's mail, their driveway happened to be one where you did a turnaround to continue on the route, began sharing with me about her mother's illness. I would always listen, try to be encouraging, and share that I would keep her mother and her family in my prayers. Her mother passed away later that year, and when the woman shared the news of her mother's passing, she said she had a Christmas gift for me. It was a large sum of money. In my shock, I told her it was way too much. I still have some Subway and Tim Hortons cards. You get a lot of things like that. But what she was giving me was way above and beyond any sort of thing. She said, "No, you were so kind to listen and to be an encouragement. I just wanted to say thank you." In a lighter vein, early on in my mail delivery career, I began leaving dog biscuits in the mailbox for those households that had dogs. Quickly, I became the ice cream truck for the canines. As soon as they heard me coming down their street, they would get all excited, jumping up and down, turning circles. There was one golden lab in particular who could hardly contain himself. I pulled into the driveway of the neighbor right next door and got out of the truck to deliver a package. When I came back, on the front seat, 4 paws on the seat, was the golden lab in the cab, taking every little biscuit that he could find off the mail truck. I couldn't help myself but laugh. In my 15 years with the post office, it reinforced what I had learned in 30 years of being an educator and in all my adult life. Living your life is about relationships and kindness, and it never costs you anything to be kind. Thank you.